Thank you for having me. I haven't travelled as far as many, so appreciate getting the floor to talk about some work I've been doing at the University of Edinburgh, between the University of Edinburgh and Drupal AI, the open source content management system. So I have 15 minutes with you today, so thank you. I'm going to cover a little bit of background and introduction, talk about me and the AI toolkit, as I refer to it, that I use, and the AI chatbot research that I employ at Edinburgh and how that deviates from standard UX work. I'm then going to show you some demonstrations of 3 chatbots that I've been working on that focus and align with 3 challenges for the university. I'm going to talk about those. I don't have much time, so I'll whiz through them, but I will give you some links at the end, and of course you can follow up with me around the rest of today and tomorrow. Okay, so I'm Emma Horrell. I run the UX service, user experience service, here at the university. And what that means is trying to improve digital experiences for all of the users of the university. So that's staff and students and the various audiences that interact with us. So there's a lot of digital experiences out there, so I try and learn from lots of other fields, basically, to help me do my job. One of those fields is Drupal AI, where there's been a lot of movement and development to help me think about how I can apply AI to those challenges. Another is in the wider higher education space, where I run a UX group. And I spend a lot of time doing things like this, just watching people interact with digital stuff from the university. And so, of course, chatbots are a big part of that. So I spent a lot of time watching people use chatbots and understanding how they use them. And I'm in a good place working for the university to experiment with AI and building chatbots because Edinburgh has invested in the Edinburgh language models. So we have a suite of large language models that we can use. And when I say we, I mean us at the university, staff and students. So we have access to use these models. We can obtain API keys to embed these models into systems and platforms. And we have control over the tokens and temperatures, so we can really do a lot with them. And importantly for the university, we have a privacy agreement, so the data that we use when we use these models doesn't get used to train models, so that gives the university some reassurance for using AI, I guess, in a controlled way. On the other side of the toolkit is, through my association with Drupal, there's an AI framework that I can use, and that essentially includes a back end of various AI, as we call them, modules. So collections of code, basically. We can build and orchestrate AI agents, we can play about with APIs, and then on the front end, there's a user interface for AI chatbots. So it means that combining these 2 together, I can very quickly spin up a chatbot for a particular circumstance to solve a user problem that I've observed with a digital experience. But of course, with great power also comes great responsibility. We at the university have a sustainability pledge, so we need to be mindful of how we use AI, experiment with AI, because it's costly, right, in terms of the environment. There are, of course, ethical considerations as well, ensuring that humans are in control and in the know of everything that we're doing. And on the data handling side, of course, and understanding that there's a trust element, and that trust depends on being transparent, being reliable, and things being explainable. So my approach to using AI and chatbots in my work is to experiment, right? To experiment, to explore and evaluate before thinking towards expansion, and to use the data that I gather from experimenting to then support, or in some cases to advocate not to expand AI chatbots into particular circumstances. And I reference Olivia Gambelin's book, which I found very helpful for rolling out responsible AI. So I work in UX, user experience, and this has been referenced several times throughout the day, that when you want to test something technical, my thoughts would traditionally go to something like this. So typical UX and design process, we do some discovery, we'd unearth user needs, we'd have a think about the product and what needs it was going to solve, what pains it was going to alleviate, what gains it would stand to give to a user. That would then lead us to define a kind of solution, kind of technical aspects of it, the interface design and what it would support. That would lead us into something like a prototyping or a wireframing stage to give us something we could test with users, test our assumptions, to see if what we built was along the right lines, and then iterate where necessary. But this doesn't really work when you're testing AI-focused features, Gen AI-focused features. When it comes to discovery and understanding what do people need from an AI in a particular context, there are really few constants there because it's emerging, and it's also very dependent on the individual. What they come to expect when they encounter a chatbot will depend on previous chatbots they've encountered, whether they encounter them at all, whether they decide to do that. So it's very difficult to pinpoint exact needs. When it comes to defining technical solutions to meet those needs, again, 1 week this will be solved by a particular model in a particular context with a network of agents. 2 days later, there'll be something else which will eliminate maybe 5 of the 10 steps you started off with. So it's very difficult to, again, pin down, this is the direction we're going to go in from a technical perspective. When it comes to prototyping, traditionally using things like design tools like Figma or Miro or something kind of wireframey, it doesn't really work until you're actually seeing somebody interacting with a model and seeing how they would phrase something conversationally, what the AI gives back and how they respond to that, whether it meets their intent or their expectations. You can't really glean much information. And when it comes to testing, traditionally with testing you want to set out a if this then that, but of course AI is non-deterministic, so 100% of your tests would fail. So it doesn't work like that. There's a lot of interpretation involved. So I thought about this and I thought, well, I want to experiment with AI chatbots. I know there's some challenges to solve at the university, which I'll come on to in a minute, but how do you actually assess them? So I turned to what I regard as a seminal work in conversational design, conversations with things, and this quote stuck with me. So can people navigate the experience successfully, and would they actually choose to go through that experience at all? Because people always have a choice with these things. So this kind of led me to a rubric, I guess, to think, okay, if I make something, an AI chatbot, and I put it in a circumstance, how will I know if it's useful or usable? So my indicators were, well, the person responds positively to it, they can naturally communicate with it, they don't have to adjust their language, it provides relevant responses to whatever they ask it, the person can then respond to what the AI gave them, and the person can ultimately complete the task in this situation with the help of the AI, and overall they reflected on it being a positive experience. So I set these out when I looked to test AI. So I'm going to talk about, as I said, 3 chatbots that we have made within my team at the UX service. And in fact, 2 of them are pilots. The first 2 are pilots that we haven't rolled out. The third one was produced last year, and my team were brought in to do some testing on it to check how it was working. So the first one was a chatbot to support staff at the university to produce good quality web content. This is something we struggle with at the university. We have a huge web estate, but we have a devolved model, so not everybody is trained in producing good quality content. It's something people struggle with. So we looked at how we could support that. The second was, I guess, the flip side of that, looking how we can improve the experience for people looking at the university websites to see if they can find what they need when they're in a task-driven mindset. And the third one was quite specific, looking at a particular chatbot to see how well it could support students finding IT support quickly. Okay, so the first one is the AI content assistant, and the ingredients of it from the back end and the front end. Starting with the front end, this embeds into a Drupal content management editorial interface. So you can see in the center portion of that screen is the editorial interface, and the chatbot appears on the side, and it's a chatbot. It's a kind of, you type in your question and it refers to the page. And underlying that is a network of agents. So the interface behind the scenes, I guess, there's a web orchestrator agent that takes a query. It might be a style guide assistant, an agent, and that has the style guide in the back as a contextual document to refer to. There's also a page structure agent, which has a component guide, which lays out the rules for how university web pages should be put together. And so there's writing elements to it, and then there's a site maintenance agent as well. It also contains a search. So, and the reason it contains a search is so that it can be contextual to the page that the person is working on, so that it can scan the information that's there and give them contextual help. And let's see how it works. Hopefully this video works. So here's a page. So imagine somebody's turned up to this page, they're doing their job, they've got a pile of text here in the body and it's not very well structured for web, but that's an arduous task for a person to do manually, so they type into the side of the chatbot, help me structure this page. And what it's doing here, it's selected to be writing content, so it goes through what's on that page, and it's using the text on that page and then restructuring it and giving the person some headings for them to review. So we built this, we were very proud of it, and then we tested it with people. And what we found is that of the 10 or so people we tested it with, all of them interacted with it differently. And that all depended on their previous experience of interacting with AI or chatbots. So some of them are very suspicious about it. What does it do? Where is it getting its answers from? Is it going to the wider web? I don't know if I want to use this. And one person copied and pasted everything out of the side window and then wanted to look at it alongside what was in the body text, because they really wanted to compare what it was doing. So one of the things that we found was the interface and how the chatbot is presented is really very critical to the experience it provides. Because it was a long scroll to get to especially lengthy text, and a lot of our web pages do have a lot of text, that prevented people being able to see, does this do a better job for me? Should I take the recommendations, and so on. So the next steps are to try more use cases. That was just a very text-heavy page, and we've also looked at pages that are more component-based to see how it handles that. But also the universal design, the chatbot UI is limiting, appreciating that needs some work. One thing it did do as well, it highlighted when we analysed the responses, we found that it was missing some of the points in the style guide that it should have been providing to users. So that was a note to us that style guide that we've put in the contextual backend, we need to improve that and make it more machine readable so that the rules are easier to apply. Moving on to the next one. So this one was about this is one about search. So this would appear on the front end of a website and it would help people find content within the website. So it's a traditional, at the bottom there you can see it's made up of 3 bits. And there's a traditional search part where the content of the website is indexed, and we put this on a demo site of our university web estate. And then the AI parts are, there's an AI boosted search where the same data that was indexed from the website is fed into an embedding model to generate vectors, and then is tested again, then is matched against the vector database. So you're combining a keyword search with a semantic search. And it combines both of those results. The LLM Elm then formats that as a conversational response. Critically as well, within this, one of the things that we realized looking at our web pages, we started thinking about, we write about ourselves to the world, but we inevitably speak about things that we know. So there's a lot of jargon specific to the university that's on our web pages that people coming to the university don't know. So this was something to add into the back-end prompt to the search assistant to think about, to assume that people don't know Edinburgh University jargon when you're putting out a response. And I'll show you what I mean with this example here. So this was the demo site that we put it on, the School of History, Classics and Archaeology. And we imagined a kind of question somebody would ask. So they might ask, when's the Classics Library open? But what they don't know is that at Edinburgh we don't call it the Classics Library, we call it the Student Special Reading Room. So of course it's not looking for the Classics Library, but with that back-end prompt, with the necessary jargon, it was able to unearth the details of that reading room for the person asking and give them the information that they wanted, which were the opening hours. Here's just another example of the output from it, and this was a query, this is actually a student typing this in, and their question was, what types of degrees are there in the school? And this is real, so they're typing it with typos and everything. Okay, hopefully I'm going to have enough time to show you all of them, but we'll see. And what it does, it pulls information from several different web pages and lists them all in a nice formatted response, but critically it includes those links there to the source pages. And what we found consolidating the results from that piece of work was that was very important to people. Knowing where the links were and the source material was what they used to sort of validate, can I trust this response? They also liked the fact that it packaged it together. When it was pulling information from different web pages, they could get it all in a conversational response to save them having to go around lots of different links. Similar next steps to the previous test, do some more testing, test the limits of what it can find, but also keep logging instances of jargon and Edinburgh speak, because that really can add value to an AI-powered search bot in this instance, to help translate things that are kind of internal knowledge and make that more widely available externally. And obviously the UI was limited too. Okay, the final one. This one's quite specific. So the front end, this actually appears on the website as a sort of service called EdHelp. There's a triage at the beginning where the person is selecting a pre-prompt and they have to read a disclaimer to know that it's from AI. And then the back end is quite straightforward. Scanned data from a knowledge base against a vector search library, and then it outputs it as a search bot response. So here it is in action. So the person up front has words to read, and they have some choices to make about what their query is about. And before they make a choice, they can't get through, is the first thing. So they go to continue. And now you'll see the chatbot UI is slightly different to that narrow side thing. We've changed that to be horizontal. And the question here, which is badly typed, this is me typing it in a hurry when I recorded this video. So it's asking them, it's asking about library cards. When you leave the university, can I continue to use the university resources? And the answer is yes, but you get that information from the alumni pages. So the output of this tells the person the answer, and there's a link there, but when you're drawn to the link, it actually takes you to, I'm just going to open it in another tab. It doesn't take you to that source page, it takes you to open another call, because it's assuming that people would not want to answer, would not want to know, they want to then ask the next question, which is to log in. And in that instance, people are drawn to the link and it didn't actually answer the query. This is the final slide, so we're on time. The consolidated findings of that is very much about the presentation of the AI in that first page. People didn't read what was on that first page, so they didn't know what was an AI response and what wasn't. Again, they looked for the links in those responses, so that's something to bear in mind. And it was confusing to be offered another help option within the AI responses. Although the intent was good, it didn't really work in practice because of people being gravitating towards the link and thinking that that was a source of what was included in the conversational response. So there's some work to be done here, not necessarily on the AI chatbot side of things, but just on the presentation of it at the beginning, and recognizing that people aren't reading those disclaimers and aren't really reading those choices up front. So we need to do a better job on that. That was a whistle-stop tour through. There's more information. I write lots of blog posts about my work. And yeah, please feel free to reach out to me. Contact details are there. Thank you.